All right, we're going to call this meeting to order. Mr. Smith is unable to attend. So, Mr. Frank, what do you have for us?
All right, let me pull up the list here. So the first thing is the sewer rates. It's definitely not a popular discussion, but to refresh everybody's memory, shortly after I took the job, the Utilities Committee had our engineer come in, and then a few other folks attached to the loan monies that's being, the loan, the grant, and everything tied to the new sewer plant. And back then, we were on tap every 6 months to raise the sewer 8%, which was agreed upon at the time as the least steep way of impacting folks using it. If not, it would be a very sharp impact before the plant opens. So we did increase last time, January 1st, and we should increase another 8% effective July 1st. So with everything else going on, it just kind of slipped through the cracks. But and if you guys like to know what that means to the rates, so for the in-town folks, it would be $1.34 increase monthly, and then 81 cents per 1,000 gallons after. And then for the out-of-town folks, it would go up $2 and a penny. And then the per 1,000 gallons after that is let's 38. So $1.21 for the out-of-town rates per 1,000 gallons. So the minimum bill would be increased $2. So I just want to bring that back. I was reminded by those folks that I mentioned earlier, and wanted to check in and remind you guys.
So, yeah, so when Michael Betts first broke that down for us, I think it was an 8%, and then it was a little more upfront, and then as the years went by, it decreased down. So, and I know we agreed upon it back then, and I still say we need to stand behind it. If not, we're going to be behind the 8 ball and trying to play catch up. And this is the best way to do it.
Okay. We're good.
Absolutely. So we can work on getting an ordinance sent to you guys, pass on an emergency if that's all right.
Yes.
Let's see, the next one. Oh, there he is. So clarifying the difference between residential and commercial responsibilities. So the backstory to this is, if you guys recall back to, I believe it was the beginning of this year, we talked about residential versus commercial, and specifically we talked about Hocking College as an example and what the city's responsible to and what they're responsible. And
Are we talking sewer?
Oh, I'm sorry, water lines.
Water. Okay.
So in terms of water, we are responsible up to the first valve for a commercial structure. And then after that first valve is on them. So, Rocky, we're responsible to the valve, everything past the first valve, everything past that is on them. Same goes for Hocking College and the school and everybody else. What we ran into is we have a couple apartment complexes in town that, are they residential or are they commercial? So to elaborate more on that, when they were originally built, all that infrastructure was put in by the contractor at the time, and the city just ran to the first valve, if you will. So the question between residential and commercial, we already have a solid definition in the trash code, and the trash code says residential is commercial's 4 or more units, then you can have a dumpster, or 7 or more rooms, like a hostel, if you will, and that counts as commercial. Question to you folks, or the problem we have is, when it comes to those apartments, it's gray. When it comes to Hocking College or Rocky, it's black and white, commercial, residential. So it's these.
What we have with the apartments is we have a valve before it even goes to any of the meters. But then there's also valves on the meters. Do we treat it residential and the valves on the meters is where we stop?
How's
Or
it
do we
sound?
treat it commercial?
Residential.
Is zone residential?
Still residential, but it is commercial, because here's the thing, you need a permit 4 and above. So that becomes commercial, so you have to have a commercial permit or a state permit for anything 4 and above. You can build anything in the world in Nelsonville for, as long as you're under 3 units, 3 units or under. So, it becomes commercial at that point.
Well, that's, I didn't know that, so that's actually pretty good, cause that directly coincides with our trash regulation.
Right, so-
Instead of reinventing the wheel, we were just gonna propose for those scenarios, further defining that code that we've already brought to you, because it's been a very helpful code. But then as soon as we ran into the next barrier, how do we fix it? And I think following the exact wording that we already have is probably the most simple way of
Yeah.
doing that.
I mean, if you gotta have a state permit to build a 4 units or better, it's commercial. At the end of the day, it's all commercial, so. Now, bed and breakfasts, I know there's been some complaints about, well, I take my trash to this bed and breakfast from this bed and breakfast. But, you know, again, that's, I don't know, is that commercial or is that residential? That's the gray area I see. I don't see a gray area in apartment buildings.
Right.
Apartment buildings are commercial, in my opinion. And basically that just falls back to the permit situation with a state permit. You're required to get a state permit to build anything over 4 units, or anything over 3 units. So, but I know some people had questions on bed and breakfasts, so
And that one, so we've been down that rabbit hole as well, and,
I got a call.
yeah.
It could be commercial property, could be also called commercial real estate. And I believe commercial real estate is for 4 units or more, it becomes commercial.
It is commercial, yeah.
Well, then I'm good following that definition, and, had we known that, we wouldn't have, probably just could've followed the ORC, but we didn't get that information back. With that said, Jason, do you have anything specific, cause I was just gonna start giving updates, a lot of the stuff happening around the city regarding utilities.
Maybe throw out there about Walnut Street where they went down and marked today, and I've got numerous calls about parking, and whoever marked the gas down there told everybody that they weren't gonna be able to get in their driveways. Not true at all. When they start the water project down through,
Where?
it's not true. Walnut Street.
So is that what the markings were for, then?
They called in the news.
Rock
Where
River
they're
did.
doing the water lines, and the guy who was marking the gas told all the citizens that they weren't gonna be able to get in their garages, their driveways, they were gonna have to find somewhere else to park, and that's not true at all.
Okay.
I talked to the contractor today, they're bringing a bunch of steel plates into town, that everybody will still be able to get in their driveways and their garages. Yeah, I've got numerous calls, I've got messages on Facebook, it's not true.
Well, and then I guess the other thing too is everybody still has the vivid memories of last year in Chestnut Street taking forever and a day. I don't wanna mess something up, but this should be significantly faster. We're talking about open trench 3 or 4 feet deep, throw a new water line in, connect all the services and cover it up. We're not talking 25 feet deep with caving in
Sewer.
sides
Yeah.
and everything else, groundwater, the whole 9 yards. So that should be significantly less time.
Well, with Chestnut Street, you know, that's real nice, that whole area there. I think bad spot I saw was right there at the corner of, Borough Boulevard and Chestnut. They could have went a little bit further towards Kroger's and taken out that
I saw that as well.
big dip, and then not very happy with the way they did the corners. It's kinda like they threw that in there,
Absolutely.
you know, like that half-rounded area there.
I know what you're talking about, I just don't know, I haven't
it's
looked
just-
at it.
So I think the corners, they just don't look that professional looking. I mean, you know, if you go to the Plains, you see that road job that they did. Man, the side streets and everything, they cut back far enough and everything's nice and smooth and sealed. So, you know, Nelsonville for years has always, just before you guys ever came into play, has always been like, well, okay, well, we'll settle for that, or we'll settle for this. just gets old, that's why we end up with bad stuff, because we settle.
Sure.
Yeah, that's something I had on that. Oh, and that plate, okay, and it's been there long before you guys or that project ever started. There's a plate in the bank park or in the bank sidewalk, for Oak and Chestnut, over by the bank. There's like a steel plate there by the light.
We've talked about that before, I just don't remember what's under it.
Have you seen this, and while you're talking about that, the storm drain on the corner by Little Italy is kicked up?
Again, our trash truck does that. Last year, they actually crushed them.
Yeah, it's kicked up in the air. I just thought that, that's something we've never seen.
I'll go down and pick it up and put it back on.
Yeah, there's one.
Can you just pick it up and put it on?
Yeah, I've already done it once. It just gets kicked up by Corey's house. Actually, I had to go up and where they're concrete, I had to move, it was moved clear off and I.
Corey hit it.
Probably.
It's on the bill.
Did you see this vehicle all beat up and scratched up? I wouldn't doubt it.
Truck's
But I had to pick that concrete thing up and put it back on and get it set back on there.
Well, there's one on Washington, the storm drain on Washington, right down from me in front of right for the alley in front of the Women's Advocates place. That thing is collapsed and sticking down, like some metal sticking out. All somebody needs to do is curb that and freaking lower the tire.
I'll check that out also.
We do, all the water lines, so they're expecting to start on the 19th on Mill Street. So they'll be digging up Mill Street. We've already got a plan in place to save all the 5-sided bricks toward the top of the hill. We've already worked with the contract, figured that out. It'd be a combination contractor and our guys up there yanking them out and putting down new base.
We're gonna pave that, right, when we're done?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
That's gonna get paved. There's a water line down there that Jason's going to change.
It's a sewer line.
I thought it was the water line going up the hill toward Matt's.
Yeah, we need to put that in, but we're replacing the sewer line too.
Mm-hmm.
So we've gotta change sewer lines going from the sides of the road. We need to increase the size into the manhole. We don't have to change the manhole. And then water line going up toward Matt's. So that way, as far as we know, everything up there is new. And then asphalt.
Nice.
Is it St. John Street after that, or St. Charles Street that the next water line goes on?
I think where they're going next.
It's up off Church.
St. John's is the alley.
Okay,
Is
so
where Mark Hall lives.
yep, it's the main road up there. Then that one's getting changed. I don't know the order after Mill Street. I just know Mill Street's the first one to get
After
done.
Mill Street, trying to think, because I know right up Monroe in North Alley.
Mhm.
Well, we don't have one down by the park?
The part of Watkins.
Yeah, Watkins, yeah.
So, and then of course South 691 is going to be the big one. We're also, with the big water line going underneath the river, we tried another approach to get it paid for, and we were not successful. So I've already talked to Michael Betts, and we're going to, and we shouldn't have any problems, but roll it up underneath the grant that we're doing now in the loan side. So it'll increase our loan payment, a few bucks, and for that amount of money over the long term.
Are we going back to over top, or are we gonna try and pour underneath? it?
Whatever he comes up with, I don't really,
I think it's solid rock underneath there.
I don't really,
Yeah, so you'd have to go deeper than what they were planning on, but.
I'm okay either way they do it, so he's gonna basically look at it as far as boring. I know we do have a quote for boring that was, what, 3?
200,000?
Yeah,
Yeah.
roughly.
Were they going deep
I
enough
don't
though?
remember. What's that?
Were they going deep enough? Cause I know our original bids, they were only talking about going down a certain,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the original bid was all dirt
Yeah,
too, and I bored the Olentangy River, and we were 22 foot under the bottom of it.
right?
There's not that much room here to do.
I think.
Yeah, you're limited on the highway side.
And I thought we talked about going back where it was, but we had to go
In the river.
through the AP, or
EPA for
and
the
then-
spawning of the,
Well, we had to get their approval again, because we're no longer gonna go underneath, we're gonna go back to where it was, and then get a hold up, cause they're spawning.
Right, so, that's the biggest intent now, I don't have an ordinance to bring to you yet to add that, but, I just wanted to see if generally we were for that action to get it done, or, and then Michael Betts will figure it out either way, and then of course we'll come with an ordinance to add that into the existing, loan that we have, or existing grant loan that we have now.
We have to get that done.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're on borrowed time right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to get that done.
Jeff
That's scary.
says an emergency situation, we can turn it back on. The problem is we're gonna hemorrhage water the whole time it's back on.
Right.
So,
I'm pretty sure we probably get a little slack from the EPA too, because we're putting chlorinated water back in the river.
well, maybe, I mean, the water we put out of the sewage plant's chlorinated before we put it back in the river to a certain, but I don't know what number of that is for chlorine. Also, since we haven't met in a long time, the last 3 tests coming back for, TTHMs, less than half of what we need to be. So it's either 8 or 0.8 is the max.
Good.
Jeff's got it down to 0.3, 0.4 area, so, and they've just been reducing the amount of chlorine in the water, adding a different chemical that's supposed to go in there, permanganate, manganese, or I don't even know how to say it. But, it's some stuff will turn the water pink if it's too much. So that's going well. Maintenance on the, tanks is going well. I'm waiting on a quote to come for painting the 3 wells out there because they need painted very badly. And once I have that, then I will ask for another utility meeting and bring that back. And that's really the big things. We met with Michael Betts and myself, and Commissioner Atkins and Trustee Warren. We all met at the school last week. Was it last week or the week before? To talk to the residents of Nelsonville and Imperial about the possibility of adding sewer over there. There was quite a strong resistance in the beginning. I honestly don't know where we're at right now. I've been asked a couple technical questions, which I was happy to answer, and you know, a lot of the pushback was, you know, having to pay, then also why do they have to pay the out-of-town rate when they're right around the corner from the sewer plant, and I just explained that, you know, the citizens of Nelsonville pay a lot of other taxes too, and other things that contribute to lower cost than out of the city. Of course, I told them if they wanted to annex, they could get the in-town rate, and that wasn't received very well either.
You almost get shot?
No, not this time. So with that said, you know, we talked to him. Michael Betts had a feeling toward the end of it that it might be okay. We do have another public meeting coming up. I believe it's either next week or the week after, which will be at the Bailey's Trailhead in Nelsonville, and we'll go there and get the second meeting to see what's going on. A lot of the questions, you know, a lot of it was fed by false information, the rumor frenzy. So we did iron out a lot of that, but that's where we're at. I don't have a good solid answer where we're at moving forward. I've already talked to Michael Betts. As far as us pulling out, it's not a big deal. Well, I mean, it is a big deal, but it's very doable. So if they don't want it, we can drop them off the loan and the grant and proceed forward with the unsewered areas in town. And the rest of that grant, which was automating all of our lift stations. So ideally, when our new sewer plant comes online, we're fully automated. So, and that's all I have for you pending any questions.
I'm good.
I'm good. Okay. This meeting is adjourned of the Utilities Committee at 6:28.